Why is it that pleasure, not pain, enslaves you the most? You scroll, you laugh, you indulge, and every time you feel lighter but emptier. Machiavelli warned, control doesn't come from chains, it comes from knowing your weakness, and nothing weakens faster than a man addicted to comfort. In this video, I'll expose how female psychology, entertainment, and hidden power dynamics use pleasure to keep men docile, and how to reverse it in silence. If you're tired of being trapped in invisible chains, don't blink. This is your turning point. Stay until the end. We are Simplify Success. 1. Pleasure as a tool of control. The moment pleasure becomes endless is the moment freedom quietly dies. What looks like joy is often sedation. What feels like connection is often control. And what you thought was living may have already been a prison you agreed to enter. Alex was 34, working as a project coordinator in Dallas. Every evening after work, he told himself he deserved a break. He sat on the couch, beer in hand, and let the glow of his television carry him into the night. The hours slipped by with shows that never ended, characters who felt more familiar than his own friends. He laughed, he scrolled, he consumed. But when the screen finally went dark, he felt only silence. One night, his girlfriend asked him why he never seemed fully present. She said, "You always look entertained, but you never look alive." The words cut deeper than she knew. He replayed them in his head while the game show carried on in the background, realizing that every laugh track was another nail in his coffin of numbness. He thought leisure was rest. She thought leisure was absence. In that gap, his relationship began to fracture. Alex noticed how quickly she turned her attention elsewhere, toward friends who brought energy, toward men who still carried a spark of purpose. He began to see what she saw, a man anesthetized by comfort, and the cruelest part was that he had chosen it. No one forced him to spend nights drowning in pixels and noise. The pleasure was voluntary, and that made it the perfect trap. He thought loyalty to entertainment was harmless. She thought it was proof he had surrendered. When was the last time she said, "You look entertained but not alive. Be honest. I will show you the move that flips that moment." Just type a few words in the comments now. Machiavelli's vision was never about chains. It was about sedation. When pleasure becomes the constant, rebellion becomes unthinkable. A mind lulled by endless comfort cannot plot, cannot question, cannot resist. Machiavelli would have recognized the same law. The ruler who supplies amusement never needs to raise a sword. Entertainment is a mask. It hides decay with a smile. It is the stagecraft of control, turning citizens into spectators and spectators into sleepers. What comes next isn't noise. It's the move that makes them addicted to your absence. He believed that being constantly amused was the same as being alive. She saw it as proof that he had already disappeared. Availability became boredom, sedation became predictability, and predictability is the easiest target for control. Tonight, resist one habit. Do not turn on the screen out of reflex. Do not scroll because boredom whispers. Let silence bite for once. You will notice something unsettling. The discomfort feels like withdrawal, the way an addict shakes without a fix. That trembling is not weakness, it is proof you are waking up. And when you stop feeding the machine loses its hold. You'll notice people leaning in, not to hear better, but to understand what you're not saying. Skip what comes next, and you'll keep numbing yourself in someone else's fantasy. Stay, and the next part will reveal why pleasure divides while pain unites, and why that truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. 2. The contrast between pain and pleasure. The day pain strikes, people move together. The day pleasure seduces, people drift apart. That is the paradox Machiavelli uncovered. What hurts unites, what soothes divides. Pain breeds revolt, pleasure breeds silence. And silence is the cage most men never see until the door is locked from within. Ethan was 38, a sales manager in Phoenix. He had once faced hardship that nearly broke him. a layoff in his 20s, debt piling up, nights staring at the ceiling wondering if he would ever recover. That pain forced him into action. He learned new skills, picked up odd jobs, leaned on friends who believed in him, and clawed his way back. Pain, as cruel as it felt, connected him with others who fought beside him. Yet years later, when his career stabilized and money flowed, something else began to rot quietly inside. Comfort wrapped him like a blanket. Nights that once carried conversations about survival were now filled with hours of scrolling through endless videos, chasing laughs that evaporated in seconds. He looked around and realized that his wife in the same room was lost in her own glowing screen, that his teenage son upstairs was locked in games until dawn, that each family member lived in a separate universe. They were together in body, but separated by invisible walls. One night his wife said, almost absent-mindedly, "You're here, but you're not here." The words froze him. He turned to see her face lit only by the phone in her hand. Her eyes did not meet his, and he knew she was not speaking only about that moment. It was about years. Ethan suddenly remembered the hunger of those earlier painful days, the fire in his chest when everything was at risk. Now he felt only numbness. He thought success was comfort. She thought comfort was absence. Next time you hear, "You're here but not here," will you sit in silence or rush to escape? If you dare, say it, and I'll show you how to turn that silence into control. One word in the comments is enough. Machiavelli's insight was brutal. Rulers fear pain because pain makes people unite, but rulers trust pleasure because pleasure isolates. Pain sends men to the streets, shouting in unison. Pleasure sends them to their couches, locked in golden cages decorated with the very things they once desired. Machiavelli would have called it the cleanest form of control, when the prisoner builds his own cell and thanks the jailer for the paint. In 30 seconds, I'll show you why this comfort is not freedom. It is the most efficient form of chains. He thought abundance was safety. She saw abundance as weakness, and weakness, wrapped in velvet, still smells like surrender. Tonight, test one shift. Sit with the boredom for 5 minutes. Do not numb it, do not feed it. You will feel the claws of withdrawal, but that is proof that control was never external, it was inside you all along. You'll notice people leaning in, not because you entertain them, but because your silence unsettles them. That is where respect begins. Skip what comes next, and you will keep decorating your cell with pleasures that bury your fire. Stay, because the next part reveals how happiness itself can be manufactured, and why that factory runs on your blindness. 3 is the factory of fake happiness. The cruelest prisons are the ones that look like paradise. What feels like joy can be anesthesia. What looks like freedom can be the softest leash. And what most men call happiness may already be the very mechanism that strips them of strength. Daniel was 36, a financial analyst in Chicago. On paper, his life looked enviable. Stable income, modern apartment, nights filled with laughter among friends, weekends with the newest gadgets and the best streaming shows. Every corner of his life was designed for pleasure, yet none of it filled him. His girlfriend once joked, "You're always smiling, but I don't feel you here." He laughed it off, but the words echoed in the hollow space inside him. He began to notice the rituals of his days. Morning coffee with a podcast that drowned silence. Office breaks scrolling endless feeds. Late nights lit by neon pixels that promised connection but left him numb. One evening, after another dinner where conversation never escaped the glow of their phones, Daniel caught a glimpse of his reflection in the restaurant window. His face was alive with light but dead with presence. He realized he was no longer living, only consuming. The laughter, the noise, the likes, the upgrades, none of it demanded anything real of him. He thought joy was growth. She thought joy was distraction. In that fracture, he saw himself reduced not to a man, but to a consumer trained to respond to every spark of stimulation like a lab rat in a cage. The betrayal was not hers, it was his surrender to the machine. How many times did you laugh it off when she said, "You don't feel real"? Don't lie. I will show you why that denial cost you power. Write a short line in the comments if you lived it. Machiavelli would have called it the perfect strategy, a kingdom that rules without swords, a prince that never lifts his hand. The brilliance of fake happiness is that no one resists it. People embrace their chains because the chains are velvet, warm, and decorated with their favorite pleasures. It is not tyranny that kills the soul, it is sedation disguised as joy. Soon, you'll see why saying less doesn't just protect you, it pulls people closer. He thought constant comfort was proof of a good life. She saw constant comfort as proof of a dead soul. And a dead soul cannot inspire desire, only pity. Tonight, break one ritual. Do not reach for your phone the moment silence falls. Do not let the glow rescue you. Sit with the emptiness, because that emptiness is where truth begins. You will feel restless, exposed, even weak, but that is the signal that you are alive again. You will notice others start to look at you differently, not because you entertain them, but because you no longer let the factory of false joy define you. Skip what comes next and you will keep mistaking sedation for life. Stay, because the next part exposes the modern Soma, the drug of our time, that rules men not by force, but by the illusion of comfort. 4. The role of modern Soma. The cruelest addictions are not powders or pills. They are the things you hold in your hand every day, the habits that look harmless, the rituals that feel normal. The drug that keeps most men asleep today does not come in a bottle. It comes in the glow of a screen, the promise of a like, the endless scroll that numbs but never heals. Marcus was 41, an IT consultant in Seattle. His life was stable yet strangely hollow. When stress pressed too hard, he did not reach for conversation or reflection, he reached for his phone. The moment loneliness stirred, his thumb moved without thought. A stream of short videos, filtered smiles, strangers dancing on repeat. For a while, the noise drowned the silence inside him. He laughed, he tapped, he scrolled until the clock betrayed him. 3 hours gone, nothing learned, nothing gained. His wife once asked, half irritated, "Why do you look happier with your phone than with me?" He smiled weakly, but inside he felt the stab of recognition. She was right. He was not choosing her. He was choosing sedation. It grew worse in private moments. Nights when desire felt like distance, he reached not for her hand, but for the blue-lit doorway of a private screen. What promised connection left him emptier than before. His body reacted, but his spirit shrank. He thought escape was relief. She thought escape was rejection. And in that gap, trust slowly eroded. Marcus never shouted, never betrayed with words, but the glow of the device became a third presence in their marriage, stealing intimacy without making a sound. He realized too late that his true addiction was not to pleasure, but to anesthesia. When was the last time you reached for the screen just to kill discomfort? If you dare, admit it, and I'll show you how to reclaim control. A single word in the comments is enough. Type it now. Machiavelli would have recognized this as a masterpiece of control. In his time, Soma was imagined as a pill that erased pain. Today, the modern prince does not need chemicals. He has built tools of distraction so accessible that men dose themselves willingly. Social media, pornography, endless consumption, each works as the new Soma. They silence the scream of the soul, but only for moments. The mask slips quickly and the emptiness returns heavier than before. The man who thought he was free is simply chained by choice. You're not fading, you're filtering. And in a moment I'll show you why that's power. He thought pleasure was proof of life. She saw pleasure as proof of escape. And escape, repeated enough, is indistinguishable from surrender. Tonight, resist one reflex. Do not reach for the screen when discomfort rises. Let the silence stand. Let her wonder why you are no longer so predictable. You will feel the itch, the fear of missing out, the tremor of boredom. That tremor is not weakness, It is the raw pulse of power returning to you. You'll notice she stops testing you, not because she suddenly respects you, but because she can no longer read you. Skip what comes next, and you will keep dosing yourself with fake relief until your strength is gone. Stay, because the next part uncovers the true cost of emotional shallowness, and why that weakness is exactly what makes men easiest to control. 5. The consequences of emotional superficiality. The cruelest weakness is not visible in muscles or scars. It hides in the heart that has never faced fire, in the spirit that has been shielded from real weight. What looks like calm is often emptiness. What feels like joy is often sedation. And what most men mistake for strength is nothing but the fragility of a muscle never trained. Julian was 29, a customer service rep in Denver. His life was comfortable, predictable, and endlessly distracted. Stress meant ordering food instead of cooking. Loneliness meant swiping through faces on dating apps, searching for quick dopamine. Sadness meant hours of funny clips until dawn. On the surface, he was always fine. His friends joked that he was the easiest guy to be around because he never took anything seriously. But one evening, when a woman he had been seeing told him, "You're nice, but you don't feel real," something in him cracked. Her eyes did not show anger, only the quiet disappointment of someone who expected depth and found a surface instead. He smiled, nodded, and said he understood, but the silence after that sentence sat heavier than any fight could. He thought lightness was strength. She thought lightness was emptiness, and in that silence Julian realized he could predict his own every move because he had been living on autopilot. Every emotion followed the same loop. Boredom led to scrolling, anxiety led to spending, sadness led to escape. The world did not need to control him. He had already programmed himself. He was no longer a man making choices, only a pattern responding to triggers. If you could tell your younger self one thing before becoming predictable, what would you say? Be ruthless. I will rewrite it in Machiavelli's voice. Drop one short sentence in the comments. Machiavelli would have called this the perfect architecture of power. When a person becomes predictable, they become controllable. Emotional superficiality is not innocence, it is vulnerability. A system does not need chains when it can map your cravings. Just like a chess player sacrifices pawns to corner the king, the world feeds shallow pleasures to collapse the soul. And the man who cannot feel deeply is the easiest to enslave, because his every reaction has already been calculated. Soon, you'll see why mystery bends perception, and how to weaponize it without saying a word. He thought avoiding pain was wisdom. She saw avoiding pain as weakness, and weakness wrapped in comfort still looks like surrender. Tonight, train a different muscle. Let discomfort stand without covering it. Do not drown boredom with noise. Do not medicate loneliness with random faces. Notice the urge to escape, and for once, refuse it. That refusal is the first act of depth. You'll notice others sense the shift, not because you show more, but because you no longer bleed predictability. They lean closer, not out of pity, but out of curiosity. Skip what comes next and you will keep mistaking comfort for life. Stay, because the next part exposes how infantilization turns men into children in grown bodies, and why that is the final stage of control. 6. The infantilization of society. The most dangerous illusion is not the cage you see, it is the life that feels easy, soft, and endlessly rewarded. What looks like maturity is often nothing more than a child's hunger dressed in adult clothing. And what many call freedom is actually a leash designed to keep grown men tame. Anthony was 35, a middle manager in Atlanta. On paper, he was an adult with responsibility, yet when pressure struck, his reflexes betrayed him. After a conflict with his boss, he did not strategize. He rushed to spend. A new pair of sneakers, a gadget he did not need, food delivered at midnight. Each impulse was a pacifier dressed as choice. His girlfriend once told him, half joking, You act like a kid who just wants candy when things don't go your way." He laughed, but her tone carried truth. The more he chased quick relief, the less he could face the weight of reality. It became clearest during an argument one evening. She wanted to discuss their future, but his eyes wandered to his phone buzzing on the table. Notifications flashed like fireflies, each promising a hit of validation. She stopped mid-sentence and asked, "Do you even know how to sit with discomfort?" The silence afterward froze him. He realized he had built a life where every frustration was answered not with strength, but with escape. He thought pleasure was resilience. She thought pleasure was avoidance. And in that fracture, the relationship began to die. This week, what limit will you set that no one can cross? If you dare, speak it. I will show you how to guard it. Just one word in the comments is enough to begin. Machiavelli would have recognized the strategy instantly. A ruler does not need to crush adults if he can keep them children. Children crave sugar, not substance. They reach for comfort, not challenge. The genius of modern power is not brute force, it is infantilization. Keep people chasing toys, snacks, likes, and shallow highs, and they will never build the muscle to resist. The man sedated by rewards becomes predictable. Predictability becomes control, and control, dressed as indulgence, becomes a permanent leash. What comes next isn't noise, it's the move that makes them addicted to your absence. He thought instant satisfaction was proof of freedom. She saw instant satisfaction as proof of weakness, and weakness that hides behind comfort is weakness still. Tonight, deny yourself one indulgence. Do not rush to buy, to scroll, to soothe. Let the discomfort breathe. It will sting, but the sting is the signal that adulthood is returning. You will notice others look at you differently, not because you give more, but because you no longer bend like a child in need of sweets. That shift unsettles them. That shift earns respect. Skip what comes next and you will remain a grown man trapped in a nursery of distractions. Stay, because the conclusion reveals how all these truths, pleasure, sedation, infantilization, fit together into one strategy of power, and how breaking it is the only path back to freedom. This is where the circle closes and the mask finally falls. What you just heard was never about avoiding discomfort for its own sake. It was about taking back your power by refusing the sedation that keeps men docile. You saw how pleasure can be a leash, how comfort can be a cage, and how silence, scarcity, and discipline turn into weapons of respect. This isn't about becoming cold or cruel, it is about becoming untouchable. You do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. You do not need endless validation to be seen. The moment you break from the machine of distraction is the moment people notice the gravity in your presence. Last month, a subscriber named Michael, a 32-year-old engineer from Toronto, wrote to us. He told us that he once drowned his nights in video games and endless scrolling, always feeling busy but never alive. After hearing these strategies, he began with one change. He let silence stand. He stopped chasing the glow and started training himself to hold discomfort. Within weeks, his girlfriend told him she felt him real for the first time. Michael said the respect he gained was worth more than any comfort he had ever known. His advice to every man still caught in the trap was sharp. Stop numbing yourself. Depth is the only thing that commands desire. You could be next. Subscribe now, because the shift starts quietly, but it changes everything.